الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا. وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا. فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. congratulations for the auspicious occasions of the Eid al-Mab'ath, the day that the Prophet ﷺ was given the order to send a message to people. So that's one of the celebrations that it's mainly celebrated. It's mainly celebrated by Shia. In Ahl Sunnah, they usually don't celebrate this day. However, definitely this is a very big celebration, very important occasion. The topic that I chose for tonight, inshallah, I try to squeeze it and we try to make it as interactive as possible. At the same time, we may not have enough time to go through certain details. It's a topic of adaptability. So perhaps you often used to us coming here and talking about belief, Quran, things that are more sort of we're looking this way. Basically, we want to see what Quran says and then talk about the topic. However, now this topic would be a topic that you can approach it even via, let's say, psychology or life coach, people that are doing life coaching. So that could be an approach that is quite similar. And I found it very interesting that when you look at the texts of the Islamic texts and also basically psychology texts, or even the ones that are made for helping people through counseling and life coach, sessions, they're very similar in this topic. And it's a very interesting topic because it's one of those things that rarely you can find one thing that applies to majority of the stories of Quran and the prophets. And this is my take on this. I'm sure people would find much wider vision of this topic if you wanted to work on it. So what is adaptability? As you know, we have to adapt to the situation, the ability to adapt to different situations. You may need to, in your life, adapt to different situations, both physically and mentally. Both of them are necessary for progressing and achievement. If you want to achieve anything in your life, definitely you need adaptability. And if somebody learns how to use those strategies, behavior changes, and having a different mindset for doing things, then you'll be much more effective. You can perform much better, and you can deal with circumstances and new situations much better and more effective. In one of the the way that we're approaching is one of the way of looking at this is to look at what is actually needed for this, to understand it, and also how we have to apply it, how we have to make it better. So if you look at the stories in Quran, most of you are familiar with these stories. Even people from majority of stories of Quran, at least a version of it, is even in the biblical background. So you can see, for example, the stories of the prophets. Many of them is in the Bible too. They might have different angles sometimes, and some of the stories in Quran, they don't exist in the biblical text. But if we wanted to really understand the common approach here by all different being prophets or the great characters that we call them awliya, if you look at all of those, you see this adaptability again and again and again. And there's the skills that they have. Now, the first thing that I'd say would be considered as part of adaptability is self-awareness. And these are, as I say, is part of the sort of modern science approach too. So they talk about self-awareness. Can somebody give me any self-awareness example? Just give me something that is called self-awareness. What would you call? Or would you understand when we say self-awareness? This is something that everybody should be able to say. This has nothing to do with religious texts. It's anybody as a basic, life circumstances and things that happen in your work and study or anything you do in life, this is part of it. So give me an example of what you understand from what we call self-awareness. MashaAllah, all young and danger? Okay, so you're saying it, but you're not saying it fully. So you're just in danger. What do you mean by that? Self-awareness means what? So you mean being aware of danger. That's what you're trying to say. I understand what you're trying to say, but I just wanted you to say the full sentence. So being aware of danger. Okay, I think we'll see actually what else you say, and I try to pick on the point. Yeah. What else? Anything else that you call self-awareness? Say again. So what is the self-awareness here? You're aware of what? Yes, you're aware of your own behavior. That's what you're trying to say. That's right. I said haram. Again, that's not full sentence. That's still about to that. I said haram what? What is the self-awareness there? That's right. That's the point. Self-awareness, the first thing about self-awareness is about your strength and weaknesses. That's the issue. And all of these things that you say is actually related to that. You're talking about strength and weaknesses because you're saying danger, which means that danger means that where I am weak. You were talking, Hajjali was talking about weakness and strength because he was talking about behavior. So the behavior that is good and bad means that I am weak here or I'm strong in this. And the same thing that what you're saying. So this is the essence. The essence is talking about our weaknesses, our own strength, and see where we are with that field of things that is around us. I've got this much weakness, I've got this much strength, and I'm going this way, or I'm going that way. I'm progressing, I'm getting rid of the problems, or no, actually I'm getting worse. That direction is important too. Now, in Quran and also in dua, you see that a lot. Give me a sentence that shows that the person who is reading the dua or in Quran, the story of the Prophet, that actually that's what they said. They talked about their weaknesses. It's a very common sentence. What do you say? That the prophets, a prophet or some of the prophets, they mentioned that. They mentioned about their dua command. What do you say? ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي أَحْسَنْتُ. That's a very good point. What does it mean, ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي? I've been unjust to myself. So you are confessing, you are clarifying that, look, this is my position. My position is weakness in front of Allah. When you look at yourself, you see weakness. You know that there is so much to do. There is vulnerability, so much vulnerability there that I have to deal with. And in a nutshell, when you want to put it in a very general statement, you say that I've been unjust to myself. So being unjust to myself may be because I haven't done enough to progress. I have been weak when it comes to controlling my desires, or I have, for example, not fulfilled the responsibilities that is on my shoulder, be it religious, from family, society, everything. Yes, that's the same. So that is something that you're considering that. But we're talking about one stage before that, which is the confessing. Like another place that the first person came on earth as this generation is Adam alayhi salam. That's what we believe. Adam alayhi salam said what? With his wife together with Eve. Adam and Eve, they said what? قَالَا رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. We, both of us, we have been weak. We have been unjust to ourselves. وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. If you sort out things, you help us, we'll be okay. If you don't, we'll be in trouble. And that's the position. This story, for example, أَنِي ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي is for Musa alayhi salam, you see in Quran, Moses, for Jonas or Yunus alayhi salam, that is the ayah that recite in which salah? That Yunus alayhi salam, Jonas, that the story, that there's an ayah, there's a verse that you recite every day, probably, in which salah? Salat al-Ghufayla. Salat al-Ghufayla. If you do Salat al-Ghufayla, the prayer that you do between Maghrib and Isha, what do you say? The ayah that it says, وَظَنُّونَ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا فَظَنَّ أَن لَّن نَّقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ فَنَادَىٰ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَن لَّا إِلَٰهَ إِلَّا أَنتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. إِنِّي كُنتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. I'm showing the position, Subhanaka, you're free from any problems. I'm the one who must have shortcoming. When he sees himself in trouble, this is the vision of a prophet, that he sees himself in the middle of mess, basically, in the darkness of the whale's tummy. What does he say? He says, Subhanaka, I know you haven't done anything wrong. I know you are free from any mistakes or shortcomings. I know everything was perfect from your side. I must have done something wrong. Yeah. That's the position that you have. And of course, like Yusuf alayhi salam, or Joseph. So Yusuf made it clear as well. And what did he say? He said, like, I know my nafs, my desires can make me go through sin, but Allah will protect me. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَن رَحِمَ رَبِّي. So, number two, we're talking about, so number one was about self-awareness. Number two is to understand changes in life. We have to be aware of changes. Because if you look at life, everybody's going through changes. It's not just about when we talk to medicinal terminology, when they come and talk about the lots of changes, they think about it, talking about menopause for women, or maybe nowadays they made up a new word called menopause. So that's not what we're talking about. So changes in life, we're talking about any change, because we're constantly getting changed, seeing changes and getting changed by the things around us, whatever is in our life, basically. Like, not ordinary changes. We're talking about the stories of Quran that is about big changes. What change? You got changed from heaven to earth. For who? Adam alayhi salam. Adam comes from heaven, from a life that is maybe not the heaven, but type of heaven. He lives in perfect situation, perfect life, and has come on earth. Trouble after trouble. So much trouble here. Think about it. Problem, change from palace to being chased or getting killed. Who? The person who was in the palace? No, he was in the palace, and he was, at some point, he had to leave the palace, and they were after him to kill him. He was chased for murder. Moses alayhi salam, that's Musa. That he was actually in a very cushy life in Pharaoh's palace, the best life, and then he was chased by the soldiers or the people who wanted to kill him. Yeah, we get in there. That's right. That's another one. That's right. So from palace to prison. That's who? That's Yusuf alayhi salam. That's right. Yusuf was in the palace, and he was in prison. And then back to palace again. Yeah. So that's we're just talking about the changes. Yeah. So that's another change. That's right. From the life in a nice town and having a cushy life to the tummy of well, as we said, Yunus alayhi salam. From who's that prophet that had wealth, had health, had children, and at some point lost all of it. Who? No. But Dhanun, that's the one we talked about. Dhanun is Yunus. Who is the other prophet that had wealth, health, and children and lost all of them? We don't believe in that. That's the Ahl-Sunnah's book. We don't believe in that. Yes? Come on. Come on, you all know him. Yes? Ayub, that's right. Ayub alayhi salam. So Ayub, he was in a very cushy life, had children, had herds, had wealth and health, famous. He lost all of that. Yes, eventually Allah gave all of that back to him as a test. But at some point he had lots of children and everything next to him, and he lost all of them. Changes. Number 3 is the resilience. How much you are prepared. So this is about basically adaptability. Your adaptability is higher if your resilience is higher. Show me somebody had a lot of resilience in his life. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa The Prophet of Islam starts his message at what age? That's today we're celebrating age 40. Age 40. So somebody age 40, you understand what age 40 means now? We passed it. We passed a long time ago, so we understand it very well. So you are age 40, and then you start a mission. Couple of years, just close people, then you announce. Okay? They're going to reject you. Fine. Tomorrow you start a business. Let's say a business. Okay, this is not business, but let's say a business. So tomorrow you start a business. And first couple of years, no customers. Maybe a couple of customers. You're barely surviving. It's really, really difficult situation. You say to yourself, okay, you know what? I'll persevere. I'll continue. And inshallah, I'll become successful. Okay. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 13 years. Down to 13 years, not only you haven't had many people as your customers and you haven't been successful that many, but they're going to kill you. They come to kill you so badly that you know for sure, and you have to leave your own hometown. In the middle of night, going in the middle of desert, 3 days that way, because they know you're going to go that way, you go this way. And you go that way, and they come, and eventually they still find you. But with miracle, you get saved. How many people do you think became Muslim in 13 years of the Prophet's message in Mecca? With all the difficulties. Remember the time that they threw a stone at him, they used to throw rubbish and dirt on his head and lots of other things. They used to beat him. They tortured his friends. They killed some of his Muslim people, became Muslim. They sent them to sanction. As they sanctioned them, they sent them to a place. They had to go to a place like basically in the middle of nowhere somewhere, the Sha'ba Abi Talib. So they were there. They didn't allow anybody to get married with them and do business with them, so you had to get things through black market. You had nothing. People were dying from hunger. Your wife dies. Your uncle who raised you dies. Everybody's dying. Everybody is bad. 13 years like that. Okay, 3 years of it like this, but 13 years like that. How many people became Muslim? How many? No, 4 was just the start. 13 years. 13 years, after 13 years. After 13 years, there are different narrations. Yeah? Most of the people talk about 75 people. Some said about 100. Nobody has said more than 200. Yeah? The people who've gone very high with number doesn't reach 200. From what? Yes. Yes. Yeah. it doesn't say the number increased up to that much. The number of Muslims before leaving Mecca was less than 200 for sure. I mean, if you're doing a business, what would you say? Come on, let's just change the business. Forget about it. This is not working. Yeah? No way. And he goes to Medina, and he's saying, okay, I was talking about this topic somewhere similar to this. So I was saying, look, when you move to a new house for a year, you're still opening boxes. You still haven't settled. Let alone if you move to a new city with no house, nothing. So the Prophet ﷺ moved there with some of his companions and some that joined, they were already there, and some that joined him. They haven't recovered from their move. There's a war. They attack. Badr. They attack and try to kill. They take their stuff and they have to take their stuff back. It becomes a battle. So, and then battle after battle. How many battles the Prophet ﷺ had to face? So you know the two types of battles. The battles that we call Ghazawat or Ghazwa, and the one that is called Sariya or Saraya. So the Ghazwa is the one the Prophet was himself in it. And the ones that others, okay, when we say war, we're not talking about like World War. It's just basically a battle that might have been a day, half a day, sometimes 3 days. But even that, how many in 10 years in Medina? So 13 years? 10 years in Medina. How many battles? 4 more? You see, that's our information about our history is not that good. Often that's the case. You're not the only one. I mean, I know, you just know that those ones, that's right. Everybody knows Badr and Uhud and Hunayn and the Khandaq or maybe Khaybar, that's it. 4 or 5. Yeah, how many? Yeah. So the number of Ghazawat is about 26, 27. 27 wars that the Prophet ﷺ himself was in it. That's number one. Then there was other wars that he had to basically send somebody, a group to run, protect this place, protect that place. These people attacking, Romans attack, the Mushrikeen attack, the people attack. There were, on average, another 47 wars there like that, Saraya. Up to 60 they have narrated. So think about 60 and 28 and 27, this is about 98. Almost under 100 wars in 10 years. And they attack, but he doesn't give up. Resilience. Yeah, that's right. We're all like crying. Now, you see, this topic I wanted to finish with today, but it looks like I can't even finish half of it, but I'll try. So, who else in Quran you see resilience is very famous for that? Who? In Quran. Yeah, in Muhammad, of course, but in Quran. We're talking about Quran first. Who else? Musa, yes, all prophets. But who is famous for that? Who is so well known for not giving up? Come on. No, I'm talking about prophets that never gave up. It continued and continued and continued. For how long is enough for you? Who? Nuh alayhi salam, Noah. 950 years of invitation to religion. 950 years? And he didn't have that many. Some of them, it's not in Quran, but there's some narrations, they say like, every few years there was one person, and then that person probably dies after. So hardly anybody. There's a small group after 950 years, but not giving up. So, resilience. Number 4 is basically being tolerant of uncertainty. It's very important. Or desperation. Being in a situation that you're desperate. There's nothing in front of you that shows like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's nothing that shows that, look, you'll be okay. Yes, there's a problem now, but happened to many people, you'll be okay. That happened a lot. Well, give me examples of the places that if you are in that situation, for sure you feel that this is it. I'm finished. I'm done. many places. Not Musa al-Khidr, probably not that. Khidr didn't do anything to Musa. What kind of version of Quran you've been reading? No, Khidr didn't do anything bad. Didn't make Musa desperate. No, situation of, for example, you see Bani Israel, Musa, the Israelites with Moses. They go and they reach the sea. We talked about this, remember? They reach the sea, and what's going on? From one side, you've got the sea, and the other side, you've got Pharaoh and his people. You've got Pharaoh and army behind you. They're going to for sure kill you. And in front of you is the sea. What am I going to do? Yeah, you're going to give up because you think, I can't swim and go to the other side of the sea. It's impossible. And this side is Pharaoh is there to kill me, for sure. He's going to slaughter all of us. Nah. I think maybe the last moment Moses should have said, you know what? Let's just have a talk. Let's just have peace. Let's just see what we can get to some sort of agreement. Nah. Ignore him. He's kind of ill. Come on, Moses. If you finish. Nah. Inna Rabbi ma'i. Or inna ma'i Rabbi. So interesting. Inna ma'i Rabbi sayati. Sort of that. Don't worry. Yeah, no. Yeah, there's no such thing in Islam. No. That's with Christianity. Oh, Lord, why have you forsaken me? No. Never. The prophets that we know never said such thing. Never. Or Yunus alayhi salam, in the middle of the, tummy of the well, what are you going to do? I was once joking and saying that, you tickle the well to sneeze you out or vomit you out? It's not going to work, is it? Probably tried. Try to tickle the well. It's a place dark. And then when he says, Quran says the darkness, in the darkness. One of the things that I said here is my own personal take, that this darkness, we all take it as darkness of a room or a place, which is true. But I think more than that is the darkness of desperation. The fact that it's no light at the end of the tunnel. Basically, you're thinking, what am I going to do? I'm done. I'm finished. No. It's just a dua. Or you see the same thing with other prophets. I don't want to actually go. It's going to take time. I mean, we haven't mentioned actually some prophets. We should perhaps. You give me an example. Another prophet that you see death. You see death in front of you. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, that's right. Abraham was catapulted inside fire. He at the end said, wait, maybe we should have a discussion about this. You throw me. No. You want to do good. No help. No. God told me to do my mission. I'm doing it, and I'm doing it no problem, no matter what. You want to throw me in fire? Go for it. No change. No weakness. Yeah? The Quran says, وَلَا تَهْنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Do not weaken. Do not give in. Do not feel that you are less. No. Don't get sad. Don't get upset. Nothing. And, others. And of course, Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Al-Rubayna alayhi salam, there are great examples of that. You can see that again and again and again. Imam alayhi salam, there are numerous. You can see, for example, even others that we don't know if they were prophets, or the story of Talut and Jalut, which is in the biblical Goliath and Saul. So when Talut or Saul got to that place, there was a big army of Goliath. They were small, and he had David alayhi salam there as well. There's a small army, and that Allah Ta'ala said that there's a small group, they get there, but what do they say? كَمْ مِنْ فِئَةٍ قَلِيلًا غَلَبَتْ فِئَةٍ كَثِيرًا. So what? There's so many small groups that beat big groups. Let's go and fight. And they did, and they won. Yeah? And what did you say? You said something? Yes? Yeah, they said on there. So there are numerous. I really have to keep going. Anyway. So let's quickly mention the things that are related to these as basically, if you want to apply it in your life and use it. So, obviously, we said self-awareness, we talked about it, so that we need to get, as much as possible, we need to get to know ourselves. That's number one. We've got to see where is our weakness, where is our strength, be totally ready, and find our position. Like you see the munajat of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Masjid Kufa. Yeah? When he speaks to Allah, and that goes on and on, the Mawla ya Mawla, Anta Mawla wa ana al-abd, wa hal yarhamu al-abd illa al-Mawla. Mawla ya Mawla, and for example, Anta al-Malik wa ana al-Mamluk. You're the owner, I'm owned. Who's going to have mercy on the owned, the one that who owns? You are Khaliq, I'm Makhluq. You are creator, I was created. Who's going to have mercy on me? Is you. So find your position. That's how we find our own position, by knowing Allah Ta'ala. That, you know, so, number two, we need to have something called cognitive flexibility. And that is, you can, you know, these phones and mobiles and everything, they have update software. We've got to update our software on a regular basis. Yeah? Because what I can do now, tomorrow I may not be able to do. And the situation may change. Maybe I can still be on the microphone, but the microphone doesn't work. I have to adapt to that. Or maybe now up, maybe I have to sometime lecture from down there. Sorry? COVID, yeah, exactly. It's a very great example. We're absolutely right, yeah. So we've got to update our software all the time. Keep going back, check our abilities, see what we can change it. The other thing is emotional regulation. Yeah? Some people think that if we are sad, then we should become dysfunctional. That's the worst thing. Sadness doesn't mean that you should become unresponsive. You have to be responsive, not reactive. So what we do, we pick up the problem with us, hold it, and try to deal with it. Not that say, oh, I've got a problem. Well, what do you do? I do nothing. I sit and watch the wall and do nothing. That becomes a problem. And as you can see that Ibrahim alayhi salam is supposed to sacrifice his son. What does he do? He doesn't just say, oh, you know what, I'm so sad I don't want to. No, there's a problem. There's something I have to do. It's hard for me. He's got emotion. He's sad. He speaks to his son. He plans for it. He does everything, goes all the way. Then, you see the story of, for example, sadness of Yaqub or Jacob. Yaqub alayhi salam is in a situation, Yusuf alayhi salam is not there, but he still stays on it. Even though he's sad, even though he cries, even harm himself at the end because he turned blind. Almost there, I understand. The next one is learning orientation. So we need to know that for change, for adaptability, we need to learn all the time. If we're not learning and learning and learning, we cannot deal with things. For sure, we're going to have shortcomings. We're going to get into trouble. As we've talked about tolerance of uncertainty, that we leave it for the time being. And also, the last one, which is very important, values clarity. If we are supposed to be adaptable, it doesn't mean that we have to lose our values. We have to have a red line for certain things. If my values is to go through certain things and tolerate and be flexible, doesn't mean that goes forever. No. There is somewhere we say, you know what, this is it. Yes, I'm happy to be adaptable and change, but not this much. This is my red line. And that is very important. If you draw a line when it comes to your values, then you can be flexible as much as possible inside that circle, as long as you have that. If you lose that line, then what's the point? Oh, yeah, I'm in a situation, I've got a new job, and it's very hard that I stop praying. Or I stop, it's far, People don't, they look at me in a weird way. They go, oh, you're Muslim, isn't it? That's why you're praying like that. I feel shy, so I stop praying. I stop fasting, and I stop doing things. Women, they lose their cover, their hijab, because, you know what, if nobody knows I'm Muslim, so what? Show them you're Muslim. Make it clear. You may go through a little bit of difficulty to tell them you're Muslim, done. After that, they will, oh, he's Muslim, finish. You think it's hard because Shaitan will put it in our mind. So this is the trick that it puts in your mind, because that's ayah Quran. We don't have time to talk about that. That inshallah we all learn the art of staying both internally and externally on top of adaptability. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا